Welcome back everybody, and in today's video I want to be going over with you my experience, the best car to ever work on as a mechanic. Now if you follow this channel, this answer might not be a huge surprise to you, but the answer to the question why is. Now first I'd like to start that every technician has their own preferred vehicle to work on. Some like to work on American cars, some like to work on European cars, and there's people out there that really hate the world and for some reason like to work on Chryslers. And believe me, I'll get into Chrysler in a whole nother video. But today I'm going to be talking about one of the greatest daily drivers out there on the road today. Depends on who's driving them, but this was probably also your first car ever. I'm of course talking about a Toyota Camry. Toyota Camry drivers definitely have the same energy as Altima drivers. So as you might expect, maintenance on these cars weren't always done when they should have been. And look, I'm not judging your driving, okay? There's been times I've once driven up a telephone pole. Not like the pole itself, but you know the cable that anchors it to the ground? Yeah. But every time I would get one of these cars coming into the shop, I would always get excited because I know it's going to be a good payday. Now it's worth the note that my goal when becoming a mechanic as my career, probably not anymore, but the whole point of me learning mechanics and becoming a technician and learning all this stuff was to help people. And as you could expect, it needed a lot of maintenance. This wasn't one of those, I just came in for an oil change. They actually came in to get some stuff checked out. Because they stated they've been driving it for a year in this condition and it's just been getting worse. But when I went to test drive the vehicle itself, I noticed a bunch of weird stuff going on. The suspension felt really sloppy and loose. It was bouncy like no other. The steering was super loose and it was trying to pull like one way every time. I had to fight the steering wheel. It was bad. It's also really important to note for this that it was a 5-speed because that actually does make a difference. And when I pulled it into the shop, got it on my bay, took it up in the air and was inspecting all the everything. I was mainly looking at the suspension stuff first because that's what I was feeling. That's the concern. That was her concern. And everything suspension wise was worn out. Tie rods were worn out. They were just, there's absolutely nothing holding them in really. I could free move them inside the knuckle. The suspensions were, the shocks and everything were shot, pushed down on the car with your pinky and it would just sink. It was bad. All the bushings, everything, and the bushings and the control arms and everything was just super worn out. And that was actually the one thing that caught my attention the most because when I was writing all this up, I was looking at all the hours and everything like that of like what it book time would recommend to write up on this. And I always try to go by book time. Sometimes I actually go a little less depending on the kind of customer it is. You know, if it's somebody struggling and whatnot, I try to help them out by lowering the hours for them. And I do remember I didn't even charge this person a full hour of diagnostics. I only did 30 minutes because all I did was test drove it and then looked and I could visually see that everything was pretty messed up. And so it didn't take me the full hour. But when I was going through the process of getting my times and everything documented and put it all on the RO, here's a crappy cell phone picture of the hours for the lower control arm with a manual transmission. I know it's a mildly long story to kind of get to the point of why these are really good cars to work on, or in my opinion, one of the best cars to work on, because Toyota themselves do pay very fairly on a lot of the jobs that you have to do on these cars. The reason why the suspension in that particular area is so high in the hours it's nothing's really special about the suspension. It's not like a Jaguar or a Jeep with air suspension or anything like that. You know, it's a pretty simple suspension setup. You got your lower, you got your upper, you got your struts, and it's as basic as it can be. But there's a lot of stuff you do have to remove in order to properly remove the lower control arm out to replace the bushings or replace the lower control arm entirely. Now the cherry on top with all these times comes down to the experience. So if you're really experienced, you've done these jobs a lot, you'll understand these cars and everything like that, that 8 hours you can have it done in way less than that, you know, for 5 or 6, like depending on your skill level and everything like that. It does not take 8 hours to do. So, and this might be because I have more experience with Japanese cars. That's what I'm used to working on. That's what I like working on. And maybe those who don't work on those types of cars all the time will have some struggle working on the car, and it might take the full 8 hours almost, or 9 hours even, or maybe 10 hours. But through my years in this industry, I've just found these types of cars to be the easiest and best cars to work on, because they have the best, they're just consistent. I'm big on consistency, and that's what they do for me every time I'm able to just work on one, you know, back to back to back, and it's just a consistent week for me, and it's really nice. So with that reason and that reason alone, it's really hard to beat good hours. Let me know down below some of your reasons why you were like working on a particular car or manufacturer or anything like that. And then somewhere here on the screen, I'm gonna have a video or two of some other cool stuff that I used to do. You guys should go check that out as well. And then I will see you guys all in the next video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and have a good day. Okay, bye.